Want to talk about environment. World Environment Day 2013 is now. It is celebrated every 5 years, and it's on the 5th of June, from what I hear,
every
to
year.
raise... Yes,
every
year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, every year on the 5th of June, sorry. I'm mixing the 5th of June with every 5 years. It's to raise global awareness of the need to take positive environmental action. It is run by the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. Well, the theme for this year's World Environment Day celebration is Think, Eat, Save. And Think, Eat, Save is an anti-food waste and food loss campaign that encourages one to reduce your footprint. I guess we would want to know what footprint is. Not footprint, but footprint. According to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, every year 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted. So we want to talk about this World Environment Day and talk about footprint and how much wastage we're seeing. To discuss this with us today, we have Mr. Bola Ilori, who's Special Advisor to the Osun State of Osun, the governor of the State of Osun. So you're welcome, Bola Ilori. Great to have you here. And then also on the other side is Mr. Anthony Akpan, who's an environmentalist and president of Pan-African Vision for Environment. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
But as I did earlier, we will be starting from Abuja, where we have a climate change expert, who is Dr. John Osonwa. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise.
Good morning to you.
Okay, now we know that this year's celebration, the theme is Think, Eat, and Save. Those three words. Can you explain to us, how do you interpret the need for World Environment Day to focus primarily on food waste?
Well, there are several reasons. When we say think, eat, save, where it's basically a shortened theme. What we're really saying is that think before you eat, so that you can help to save the environment. And the reason we're saying that is food production accounts for over 25% of the use of land. All habitable land in the world, 25% is devoted to farming and food production. 80% of deforestation is linked to food production. 30% of carbon dioxide emissions, greenhouse emissions, linked to food production. So it's a very important aspect. When you think of food, you don't automatically think of environment, but they're really interrelated.
Okay, so with that now, where do you see Nigeria? Let's start from home. As they say, charity begins at home, so let's bring charity home and talk about it. In terms of beginning charity at home, how much food wastage do you see in Nigeria, and how does it affect things in the scheme of things in terms of our environment in this nation?
There are two categories of wastage. In developed countries, wastage is really a function of consumption. But in developing nations such as Nigeria, wastage is a function of production. And by that I mean we begin with the agricultural process in Nigeria. The wastage begins at the point of harvesting. We don't have advanced harvesting techniques, so a lot of the produce is wasted, just harvesting. We have crude harvesting mechanisms. The next one is we have a trend, perhaps because of culture, where everybody plants at the same time, which means that when it comes time to harvest, we're all harvesting at the same time. So you have this cycle of glut and famine. You go to the market, at one point you can get a basket of tomatoes for 200 naira, and then you go a few months later and you get 2 pieces for 200 naira because everybody has exhausted their produce. So we need to stagger the production. So that's a problem, and that leads to a lot of wastage. We also have the challenges of gaining access to the rural areas where much of the production happens. We don't have access roads to rural areas. So that's a challenge. By the time the produce gets to the market, it is spoiled. We also have issue of bad roads. If you travel on any of our long-distance roads, you will see a lot of trailers overturned with produce scattered all over the place because we don't have good roads to evacuate our produce. So that is a problem because for every wastage that you see, we're also losing a lot of the inputs that go into the production. You're losing the land that was used to cultivate the produce. You're losing fuel. You're losing energy. You're losing fertilizer. You're losing man hours or women hours that went into the production. So we have a lot of issues, and there are some other problems peculiar to Nigeria and to developing countries.
Yeah, Doctor, you said stagger production. I don't know, the little I know about farming, all this produce are seasonal. So if you plant tomatoes, for instance, outside what we know as the tomato season, you're not likely to get plenty of yield from it, are you? So, but having said that, I also appreciate that in many other parts of the world, you get tomatoes all year round, you get apples all year round. So what are we doing wrong that we cannot get tomatoes all year round? So you don't get 2 pieces for 200 naira today and get a whole basket for 200 naira next month.
Well, it's really a function of irrigation. And also using the right varieties. There are some advanced varieties. Even in Nigeria, some of our institutes have developed advanced varieties that are not prone to those challenges of just being planted within a short window of time. Another thing that helps to have year-round production is irrigation. If you can irrigate your farmland, you're likely to extend the production cycle. That's why in the U.S., you get tomatoes, you get bananas, you get all these things year-round. And the price fluctuation is not very much. Unless there's a pronounced drought, you will not have a shortage. So we need to do those kinds of things. But there's also another problem that I want to point out, and this is one that really bothers me. It is the issue of adulteration and tampering with produce. We are developing a trend now, a very bad trend, whereby some farmers, in order to hasten the ripening process of their produce, would put chemicals or rub chemicals on this produce to make them look more appealing or make them look ripe to the consumer. The problem there is we have 2 problems there. One is the chemical is harmful to humans for consumption. But the second problem is it's suicide for the farmer, because when you put a chemical to hasten the ripening process, it also hastens the rotting process. So if you have, let's say, banana or oranges or mangoes that naturally should last for 2-3 weeks on its own, when you rub these chemicals, you may have it rotting within 3 days. So that also leads to a lot of wastage because they are trying to cheat nature because of greed.
Okay, let's bring the discussion into the studio in Lagos now. Mr. Ilori, Karim mentioned in the opening about footprint. Please, what is footprint?
Footprint, I would say, is what one person per capita take out from the earth resources that each person is going to take out of earth resources in feeding himself or herself, as the case may be, and the impact that will have, on the global reservoir of resources. Bringing that down a little bit more is to look at the carbon, because that's tied to what we are talking about, the carbon footprint, not footprint, of each production. We look at what goes into what you eat. The soil will be tapped. It's part of the finite resources of the world. It's not infinite. It has it's determined, predetermined before now. You look at what it takes you to transport it from the farmhouse to the table, from farm to fork, as it's called, from the farmland to your table. So you look at it that what goes into all of that, the diesel of transporting, the of the driver coming here, the risk on the road, so many things goes into all this that when you are eating on the table, you may not, if you don't think, you will not look at the entire process from the woman tilling the soil to the transporter taking it. The entire food chain comes into play before you have anything on your table.
I'm glad. So we're supposed to make an effort to reduce.
Yes, all of this to think about what it takes to produce that your simple plate of rice that you are eating. When you think at the process, you become more conscious about throwing away these things, because it's beyond your money. Your money cannot plant rice. Somebody has to do that. Your money cannot take the rice from the farm. Somebody has to drive the truck.
Yeah.
So you must look beyond the cash you have in your pocket to look at that. It takes a whole lot to bring.
I'm glad you started with the aspect of think, which is one of the themes of the World Environment Day. Now, still on the issue of think, what are the people in government doing in terms of thinking through the policies that would enhance our food production and the processing of it? You advised the governor of the state of Osun.
The state of Osun. If I want to look at, let me domesticate it to Osun as a case study for what we are talking about. Before now, the government had looked through some of these issues. It's good that the World Environment Day is focusing on this, which brings it deeper into focus. It's first likely within the purview of agriculture before now. But now people are looking at the environmental impact of even of agricultural activities. Looking at the case study, the government established what is called ORIP. ORIP is an agricultural agenda of the government, to make food available. And for the first time, we did something that is different from other states, which is to establish not just Ministry of Agriculture, but Ministry of Food Security. Because we mix a whole lot of this. People have been used to this cooperative idea to take fertilizer, buy money, but not looking at the ultimate goal, which is food security. So we created that, which falls in tandem with this. But even from the environment end of it, there's